something comes rocketing down from the mountaintop. There and gone in a flash. What was that? The thing that you saw tumbling down the slope was definite. You're overcome with a sense of deja vu. That's right. High-speed slope rolling was all the rage in town not too long ago. You try it out for yourself and start rolling down the hill. Seeing how much fun you're having prompts your friends to come tumbling down after you. Everyone seems nice and relaxed afterward. An armor-clad knight stands, exuding an extraordinarily powerful aura. The knight faces you and asks, "Might you be challengers?" But after sizing you up for a long moment, his shoulders slump and he mutters, "No, you are not yet ready. Grow strong, young ones," he says. Then it appears he awaits a stalwart warrior to challenge him. Don't hold back. Fortune favors the bold. Rout the enemy. Excellent. You did great. About the enemy. Fortune favors the bold. That was lucky. You come across two men sitting on a rock. You listen in. You lean in, trying to hear. Listen about that loot. Head south from the harbor. It sounds like you hastily grab a scrap of paper, write down what you've heard, and quietly sneak away. Nice work. Congrats. Let's head to... A bizarre rock appeared. It seems primed to explode. The bizarre rock transformed into a fear rock. The only way out of this fight is through it. Oof. That was lucky. A monster appears. Rather, you may be able to aid it by administering some curative. You take pity on the creature and administer some curative. Able to move once more, it makes a clumsy attempt at a bow, and then it is gone. That was lucky. That was lucky. As you make your way to the coast, a piece of paper nearly smacked. It depicts a woman standing before a sun. Examining the background of the picture closely, you spot a lighthouse in the distance. Written on the other side of the paper is a single word. My darling dearest, I give you my love, my treasure, my everything. The only word you need to see, really. Treasure. Certain you'll come across it in your travels, you stuff the picture into your pack for safekeeping. A monster appears. Before it can reach you, another monster leaps into its path. Is this creature protecting you? The two monsters engage in a ferocious... At last, the monster that first lunged towards you flees. You protector, grievously wounded, collapses to the ground and is still. The creature at death's door hands you a small cloth pouch and breathe. You gaze upon the creature's lifeless body. It looks rather like a monster you cured of paralysis once. The party affords the creature a proper burial and prays for its safe passage into the afterlife. You see something approaching from up ahead. A monster, Melanie shouts, readying for battle. Mr. Flobby, get back here. It's dangerous out there, a young girl chides, taking the creature back to the village. It seems you've finally arrived at Unionville, a village where humans and monsters live together in peace. What a weird place, remarks Riddis lightheartedly. I like it. We aren't staying a moment longer than necessary, says an unsettled Melanie, her distaste for monsters plain on her face. Any travel? It appears the headman's long-standing pronouncement on the welcoming of all magical creatures also applies to you and your party. The village headman is a renowned gourmet. The man says he wishes he too could have such a lavish meal just once in his life, his deep desire for delicacies only growing with time. Wow, a new friend, and so big too, the furball exclaims in glee as it rushes over to Mar. Mar stares off into the distance as the furball snuggles up to his leg. For some reason, Riddis joins in on the cuddling. Lately, a suspicious man cloaked in black has been seen wandering about the village outskirts. The old woman looks at Melanie and remarks that he was dressed just like her. The little orc child is engrossed in a fairy tale. The title reads, "The Legend of the Dragon." You take a peek into the picture book and come across a passage that piques your interest. To where, you wonder, then recall that this is merely a fairy tale. However does your mouth become so filthy, Mr. Flobby? Clearly embarrassed, Mr. Flobby murmurs, "That's not my mouth." A young boy wanders up to your group in wide-eyed wonder. You surmise his curiosity stems from the lack of travelers visiting the village. You realize you are right when he assails you with questions about your origins and adventures. The Inquisition leaves you exhausted. The little goblin sulks as he gazes upon the withering flowers he tried so desperately to take care of. He looks at you with tears in his eyes, silently begging you for help. They must be thirsty, you think to yourself. Then douse the flowers in water until... Stop, stop! If it were that easy, the goblin says, he would have done it himself. You pour the salve onto the flowers, and they stand up tall. The goblin cries out in happiness and thanks you for your help. He then holds something out to you. The goblin stares lovingly at the beautiful flowers. "Healthy flowers are the tastiest," he proclaims in glee. Did he grow those flowers just to eat them? You ask the old man if he knows anything about the dragon. "No, sir," he answers. "All I know is that it brings more trouble to this already." "But our headman is a wise and worldly man. He might know something," he remarks, pointing at a house not far away. The child says his monster friend left the village suddenly to go back home. He claims the headman told him that he could. The little orc child pouts. "But I don't know where my home is." A quiet fur ball sits with crumbs around its mouth. The woman frowns deeply, claiming the cakes she bought for her beloved furball have all been eaten by someone else. Travelers, you hear a voice call from somewhere. Down here, at thy feet, you look down to see a small clump of fur by your boots. The clump of fur speaks. I am Lappy, and I should like to journey forth with thee. Lappy the furball looks at you with amiable expectations. Of course, the more the merrier, you exclaim, pumping your fist energetically into the air. But Melanie coldly interjects, no, I can't trust monsters. Thoroughly rejected by Melanie, Lappy bursts into tears. Lappy says he has no friends because of his aged face and speech. All alone, he decided to leave the village on a journey. Your party is silenced by the crying child with the face of a grown man. You tell Melanie to be nice and quip that both she and Lappy could use. Exhausted from arguing with you, Melanie half-heartedly agrees. Fine, we can be friends. However, she says that they are on a dangerous journey to defeat the dragon. As such, they cannot take a child with them. Lappy leaps up and hugs her in his excitement, exclaiming, "Thou hast made me so happy." Till next time, Melanie says, peeling Lappy off of her and placing him on the ground. Though she thought all monsters to be evil, Melanie feels that the ones here are different. Finally, a friend. You bow, but before you can speak, the man suddenly introduces himself as the village headman. He laughs, then shamelessly praises his own village as being wondrous and peaceful. "And who are you?" he asks. After explaining that you are on a quest to defeat the dragon, the headman invites you to rest your feet a bit in his village. He says that he had heard rumors of the dragon when he traveled the world. You must be tired from your journey. Have a seat. I will have my chef prepare a feast, the headman says, then claps his hands twice to summon a stewardess. Extravagant dishes that you have never seen before are placed on the table before you, each one looking more delicious than the last. "You're drooling," Melanie scowls. You hadn't even noticed. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve, then gasp as you turn to Mar. Perhaps in an attempt to hold himself back, Mar is gnawing on the table corner. There, we'll eat soon, you reassure Mar. The doors fly open in the next instant, and a girl runs in. With tears in her eyes, she tells you that her dear companion, Mr. Flobby the Slime, is missing. The headman's eyes go wide in surprise. "We must find that slime right away," he says anxiously. "You are starving, but it doesn't look like you'll be able to partake of the feast before you because of Mr. Flobby's disappearance." "We will find your slime, and then we feast," you add quietly. Melanie reminds you that you are here to get clues about the dragon from the headman. What's the difference? Literally everything. Hunger taking its toll, you two begin to argue. "Brave heroes," the headman interjects, then bows his head. "Would you please?" It appears the story has hit a stand. You need to hear the whole story from the young girl. girl sobs, wailing about the mist. Melanie places her hand atop the girl's head. The girl then hands something to Melanie. It looks like the muddy handkerchief she used to wipe Mr. Flobby. She asks Melanie to wipe Mr. Flobby with it after you find him. Regardless, looking aimlessly outside the village would be a waste of time. You decide to collect more information in the village. The goblin dutifully tends his flower bed, eagerly anticipating the day they bloom. Having no interest in children's picture books, you continue on your way. She says she saw a suspicious man and she claims they went northwest. Did that man take Mr. Flobby? You resolve to leave the village in search of the pair. You're something else, the boy praises you, proffering a gift in commemoration of your win. You leave the janky telescope where you found it, and make your way cautiously toward what you saw. You spot a loiter. These monsters are a common sight. You can't not fight such a unique monster. Eagerly, you draw your blade. About the enemy. Though a torch is not strictly necessary, it would certainly help you find your way through the dimly lit shrine. Your footing is obscured in the dimness of the shrine. You should probably proceed with caution. Though I understand your urge to hurry on ahead. You go forth slowly but steadily, taking it one step at a time. You take a good look at the floor and see it lined in trails of viscous liquid. No doubt a slime or 200 have passed through here. It looks like poor Mr. Flobby is being held captive by the Mystery Man. And oh, you speak as if I kidnapped him, he remarks, curtly turning to face you. When your eyes finally adjust to the surrounding darkness, you realize the man's clothes look eerily similar to Melanie's. Melanie's mouth falls open in surprise. It seems the man has noticed Melanie as well. It looks like the two know each other. According to the man, he and Melanie came from the same village and are far from strangers. The man's revelation makes you realize that you know almost nothing about Melanie's past. You ask Melanie about her hometown, but she holds her tongue. Then the man speaks. With forbidden magic, our clan has ensured the dragon, he begins, when Melanie cuts in. She rattles on about the man, telling you that he is Vince, a lunatic obsessed with the dragon. Vince resentfully claims that he is searching for the noble dragon to protect it. You ran away from home with your tail between your legs, he ridicules. Enraged, Melanie lunges at Vince. You have so many questions, but realize that the most pressing matter is getting Mr. Flobby back. So you ready for battle? Careful, he won't go down easy. During the fight, Vince asks, "Do you know the truth about that village?" The headman may look like a nice old man, but he keeps those little monsters around to, he begins, but before he can finish. Winifred, the three brush you aside, fixing their attention on Vince. "So you are the one who disturbs the peace," they exclaim, then charge at him. The Ivory Order and that false justice they serve are the true evil here, he retaliates, fighting back. Seeing the two parties occupied with each other, you realize this is your chance to grab Mr. Flobby. Perhaps wary of humans, Mr. Flobby dashes out when you draw near. When you reach out to grab Mr. Flobby, he suddenly lower Mr. Flobby's stamina to calm him down. Exhausted from the fight, the raging but it seems he hasn't yet come to his senses. Find something to help return Mr. Flobby to normal. You wipe Mr. Flobby's mouth with the handkerchief you received from the girl. Then you hear a quiet voice speak. "That's not my mouth," Mr. Flobby murmurs bashfully. It looks like the girl's familiar scent on the handkerchief returned him to normal. Having regained his senses, Mr. Flobby heads back to the village. You place the increasingly sticky handkerchief in your bag. Lappy approaches and tells you that Mr. Flobby has returned. The girl is ecstatic that Mr. Flobby is finally back home. "I'm happy for you," Melanie says with a smile as she returns the handkerchief. The girl bows her head and thanks you deeply. Mr. Flobby looks as slimy as ever. You just hope it's a happy slime. "The headman wants us to bring Mr. Flobby to him. Would you mind?" you ask. "Of course not, but bring him back soon," she answers with a bright smile. "I am so happy to see you safe and sound," the headman exclaims, giving Mr. Flobby a hug. You explain everything that happened, including the incident with Vince and the Ivory Order. He expresses his relief that the Order will be taking care of the criminal. He then thanks you for your hard work and instructs his stewardess to prepare dinner for your party. You can feel your collective mouths watering at the sight of the lavish meal before you. You, Mar, and Ridis immediately dig in. You aren't sure where you find a moment to breathe among all the feasting. "Please, eat to your heart's content," the headman insists with a smile. Once your belly is full, you realize that Mr. Flobby is gone. And then... "Room for dessert?" the headman asks, offering you a plate of slimy jelly. You feel your stomach churning at the very sight of it. The color strikes you as familiar, and the stickiness sends a shiver down your spine. Is this Mr. Flobby?" you ask the headman. The headman looks at you with a plain expression, one that holds no malice. "Is that a problem?" "This dish is a masterpiece," he remarks with a light-hearted chuckle as he gazes at the jelly. "And I have you brave heroes to thank for it. Had you not brought that slime back, we would not be able to enjoy this exquisite dessert." "Are you full?" he asks, seemingly concerned at your silence. "It would be a shame to let something so splendid go to waste." You move to leave, but I try to get my meat while it's still young and tender. "But at least your pet is very plump," he remarks, licking his lips. He points at Mar and asks, "Would you consider leaving that creature here with me?" Never, you refuse flatly, not bothering to hide your discomfort. Think about it, he entreats. You grab the headman by his lapels, hands trembling in fury. And fight. You pummel the headman with all your might. Curled up on the ground, the headman groans in pain, but insists that monsters were meant to be eaten. You hug Mar tightly, reassuring him that you will not hand him over to anyone. Mar looks at you with his round eyes and mews softly. You meet eyes with the rest of your party and reach a tacit agreement. Together, you all stand and leave. His consciousness fading, the headman asks, "What did I do?" As you are about to leave the headman's house, though, the old man suddenly charges at you from behind. But Mar, the keener of you two, is quick to block his path. With a crash, Mar and the headman tumble to the ground. From the headman's hand falls a small blade. It clatters to the ground, covered in blood. You take the injured Mar to an inn where you can watch over him. You gaze at the unconscious Mar with concern. Despite the shallow wound, no amount of medicine seems to rouse Mar from the bed. I heard that my friends were in danger, so I came as quickly as I could, Lappy says. As he reaches Mar's bedside, he leans over and licks his wound. "This is what-you-call-it extract," he shouts. He explains that it is a poison extracted from a certain monster. If it enters the body, it drastically reduces one's stamina. Hearing those words, you realize the headman's blade must have been coated in this poison. Mar's condition starts to make sense. "Isn't there anything we can do?" Melanie asks. Lappy's eyes widen in realization before he places his mouth over Mar's wound and begins sucking. He then puts the what-you-call-it extract into a bottle and hands it to you. Lappy says that if you follow the road south of the village, you will reach Shoreland. He tells you to give the extract to the famous nutritionist there. Is that a problem? You don't hesitate to undertake the quest. Despite the shallow wound, despite the before he places his mouth over Mars. You don't hesitate to undertake the quest. But this is strange. The extract comes from a monster, so it should have no effect on one, Lappy remarks with a curious tilt of his head. Realizing that you are at fault for this, you don't hesitate to undertake the quest. But this is strange. The extract comes from a monster, so it should have no effect on one, Lappy remarks with a curious tilt of his head. I thought a beast of that size would eat us out of house and home, she remarks, no doubt talking about Mar. The girl sighs. You're dirty again, she says, wiping a slime's mouth. Mr. Flobby, you're alive, you exclaim in glee. This is Mr. Globby, Mr. Flobby's cousin, she tells you. The girl sighs. You're dirty again, she says, wiping Mr. Flobby's cousin, Mr. Globby. My big friend is gone, says the furball sadly, after realizing Mar is nowhere in sight. The indiscriminately wary woman narrows her eyes at your group and says, now that I think about it, you all look suspicious. The headman's guilty pleasure of eating monsters has reached the ears of the people, and he has been chased from the village. The man looks sad, saying he cannot believe no one realized he was eating children.